compile our code locally and then deploy it locally. We are going to test it with Remix IDE to be sure our Solidity code is working as we want it to work. But before we do that, let us just quickly write all the functions that we need for our Solidity code implementation. Then we go ahead to test it with Remix IDE. Then once we test it, we then compile it locally to be sure. Once we are sure there's no issue, there's no error, then we then compile it locally and deploy it locally. Then we link it up with our blockchain. Don't worry, everything will be in a practical way. We are going to be demonstrating it practically. Right, so the function, now the user have created the function. The next thing now is just to create a function that we pick up the delivery. So that is for the logistics provider. So the logistics provider will pick up the delivery. This is a function that allows the logistics provider to pick up the delivery. So once the logistics provider has picked up the delivery, then the receiver of that particular parcel will confirm receipt of the parcel. So this is the function that we are going to be using to do that. So once the receiver has confirmed receiving the receipt of the parcel, then you can go ahead to transfer the money to the logistics provider. You are going to be seeing all that in practical action, in practical demonstration. Before then, let's just quickly go ahead to implement the pickup delivery. So unsigned integer, we are going to be needing some parameter. So what we just need here to allow the logistic provider to pick up the parcel is just the delivery ID, or let's call it the shipment ID, so that it will be uniform with whatever it is that we have been using previously in our code. So there's no money that is being transferred in this function, so we just set it to public because we want it to be called outside of the smart contract. If you don't want to be called outside of the smart contract, as simple as just changing this public to private. Simple as that. But because we want to call it outside of the smart contract, we need to set it to public. So once you have been able to do that, you just go ahead to get the particular shipment that the logistic provider wants to pick up. So how do we do that? Just do shipment. Don't forget you have defined a structure for your shipment. You can just come here and copy it also. Let me just close it so that my scrolling will be faster. Alright, so I think this is what I've been needing. So yeah, I think this is good now. So shipment, also this is storage. That means you are reading and writing it from the blockchain. So that means you are reading it from the blockchain. If it is memory, for example, this is memory because it's just limited to this function. So we are not paying any gas fee for reading and writing to the blockchain. But here we are actually reading because this is the record we want to set to our blockchain. We are not limited to this function. This function is not limited to use to just the function alone. It's available all around, like it's available on the blockchain. So that is why we need to specify it as storage, because we are reading and writing it from the blockchain. So shipment, so this will give us, so you can see you have defined your shipments because so the particular shipment that you want to get from the blockchain, you send the ID. So like don't forget we have set the key value pair, so that once we want to get a particular value, we just use the key, and that is why we want the user at the point of calling this function to send us the shipment ID, so that we use the shipment ID to pick up the particular shipment that the logistic provider wants to pick up. So we need some check and balance here too. So the first check and balance is to be sure that the shipment is currently at the created stage. That the stage where it was created, so it has not been picked up and it has not been delivered. So, and also to be sure we can add that to be sure that the seller actually has a valid seller. Let's just put a valid seller to be sure we have a valid seller. So a valid seller, so that we also want to check. You can add as many check balances as possible to your Solidity, but for now we just limit ourselves to others. And some of this sometimes too is until when your program is being implemented and used that you will discover that, oh, you need to add this and to add that. So there's also room for that too. So the first thing is to check if, don't forget, in order to check if some certain conditions are met, just to require shipment, this particular shipment that you have fetched from the blockchain. You want to check it now. You have been able to fetch it from the blockchain using storage. So shipment, the current status. Don't forget the structure of the shipment. You have something that we call status. That is what we are calling here. So the shipment the status is, you want to check if it is equals to status dot. So this status is coming from here. Status dot created. So I've been able to define the status. Status dot created. So if it is equal, that means it's currently at the created state. It has not been changed to pickup. It has not been changed to delivered. So if you are there, then you want the function to be executed normally. Otherwise, you want to tell the user that the shipment had already been picked up or completed. The shipment has already been picked up or completed. So once you have that, then you are good to go for that line. But notice that this particular require is throwing us an error, and the problem is that we do not terminate this line with a semicolon. Don't forget, Solidity is a statically typed programming language, meaning that you must terminate your line with semicolon, otherwise it will start giving you error. So this next thing we want to check if you have a valid seller. So all you just need to do is just get the shipment, the variable shipment that has been fetched from our database, from our blockchain. We want to check if the status is equals to status. Sorry. We want to do required. The condition is that for the shipment, we want to have the seller. We want to be sure it is not non. It is not a non-address. That means there's a valid seller. So if this address is actually a non-address, it's a type of address, but a non-address, an address that does not exist. So if it is not a non-address, then we are good. It can continue running the action. But however, if it is a non-address, then this will be false. Then it will throw this error. Or the error, you just want to tell the user that the shipment does not exist, because if it does not have a seller, and since it's a seller that is actually transferring this shipment, if it does not have a seller, then it's as good as it does not exist. So now that we have been able to do the necessary check and balance, then the next thing is for us to now assign the logistic provider that pick up this parcel to this parcel, so that we'll be sure, alright, this logistic provider has picked it up, then there's no need for another logistic provider to pick it up again. So what we just need to do is just the shipment we have actually fetched from the blockchain. So we just get the value of the logistic provider and we set that to the payable. Don't forget that initially we actually set it to logistic provider, which is, you can say that we set it to a non-address. So now we want to update it to a real address. So payable, because it's going to be getting money. So we just get the message. Whoever called this function is actually the logistic provider. We just want to get the address of the person that called this function and set their address to be the logistics provider at that particular time. By the time we start testing, you see how we change. Let one person play the role of the seller, another person play the role of the logistic provider, another person play the role of the receiver. So the same thing is what Ganache, and that's why Ganache actually gave us more than one test account. So if you use this for seller, you can use this for the logistic provider, you can use this one for the receiver, and you'll still be able to test your system, functionality of your system appropriately without any issue. Now we have been able to set the logistic provider to the person that called this function. So that is the person picking up the parcel. Then from there, we want to set the shipment status. We want to set it to status. We want to update the status. So where are we updating the status? It's just what we did previously. This way we are updating the status, and we are updating it to picked. Let's just do everything here. Updating it to picked. So you can just close this. And we want to update the status of this particular shipment that was fetched from the database or from the blockchain to picked up. So that is what will happen here. Now that you have been able to do that, you just emit it. That's alright. This has actually been done by me. So picked up. So you cannot emit the function that up. Right, shipment picked up. And just emit that function. Or you emit the event. So what are we emitting? We are emitting the shipment ID. Also, we are emitting the logistics provider address. So now that we have that, we can just save and continue writing our function.